What we're going today is bearing off with no contact, um, which seems like a simple enough thing, and it is a fairly simple thing. I think most people will get the basics of it. Michi doesn't treat it. It's a very short chapter, um, but he actually left out a couple of things that I thought. So we'll have some. We're going to add a couple of things that weren't in there. One of which was pointed out to me by Ray, who sent me an article that he wrote, and I'll put the article in the file sharing thing. So if anyone wants to get the article by Ray, you can do it. But we'll go over what he had to say.
Well, I was only relying on Art Benjamin.
Okay, well, Art Benjamin is reliable as well, and it's a good article for those that want to read that sort of thing. So, but basically, the rules are the two main rules are bear off whenever you can with a single die. So if you have a checker on your ace, you take one off when you roll an ace. If you have one on the six, you take one off, or you're forced to. And if you have a roll of three and you have one on the three, you take it off. Very simple. Second rule is fill a gap. Not quite as simple enough, but although, and it's trickier, sometimes you have to give up a pip, and you do that by playing usually the low number first and then clearing from the bat. So we'll go over that. That's simple. The third one we'll go over, and I'll discuss it there when we go over some positions. There's something called what I call is the 2.7 pip rule, which we'll go over, and that's when you have to split checkers at the end, and you can't take one off because you're forced with splitting. And there's a good rule and Michi does not cover this, which I'm surprised, because it happens fairly often, and it's often a big mistake if you get it wrong. So, and then there's the desperation rule, what I call the desperation rule, which actually Ray pointed out in his article, and that's when your only chance to either get off a gammon or to win is by getting a nice set of doubles, and so you're going to violate the fill the gap rule in order to give you more doubles to get you off. So let's get started on those. And so we had the first one, and so what's our play here with the 4-3?
Four off, 6-3.
Yeah, first one is simple, 4 off. The rule: take a checker off when you have a number that does that. So 4 comes off, and then you're left with what's the best one. So 4 off, what's the best 3? And so you go to the fill the gap rule, and so you have a gap here, and generally you want to fill your gaps for the most part from the back. So you have your 3 is your highest gap. So if you go 6-3, that will get you where you want to go. Filling the ace point gap is not terrible either, but I think generally filling it from the rear is a little bit better. It is here, but it doesn't make that much difference. This play, not filling the gap are errors. Not taking a checker off are bigger errors. Okay, 3-1. So what's the best play here?
3 off, 1 off.
Yeah. Two die,
And two off.
checkers on the spots. You take 2 off. Anything else is a fairly big error for bearing off, and it's 0.05. That normally that's not a big error for difficult checker play, but for bearing off, you should be able to get these pretty much right. So, okay. Next one.
The 5 off.
Yeah, so 5 off is one choice. And it's
two off the 6.
not the right choice. Yeah, it's actually 2 off. Now here's this is Michi's kind of third rule for bearing off, which is and let me bring it back up because I think I copied what he said it was. Well, okay, so if you have 2 dice, so if you have 1 die, you're going to take any checker off that you can with the 1 die, and then do the best with the other ones. However, if you're going to need 2 die to take a checker off, you may look to improve your distribution. So in this case, it's a little bit better to take 2 off the 6. Even though you're not taking a checker off, you fill the gap and you've unstacked a point. So that's Michi's kind of, that's his advanced rule for this chapter. I had to say that I know that rule and it doesn't always work. So, and it's not a big mistake if you don't get it right. If you don't, if it was wrong to do that, it's like a 0.02 that I've seen. But I meant to save some of those, and I've forgotten to save them, and I don't know where they are. But in any case, it's that's his good rule. I think it's probably right most of the time. Michi's rules are usually right. So, but that one I've had some trouble with. So here's another one. We can't take it. We can take a checker off with on the 4 point, but we can't take one off with a die. So what do you think is the best play here?
Well,
6
2 off the 6. Or 2 off the 6.
No.
6, 3, 2,
We can
1.
take 6 off or 6, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that would follow Michi's rule of okay, if you need 2 die to take 1 off, then then improve your position. So either 6, 3, 2, 1 would fill all the gaps except for the 5, or 6, 3, 6, 5 would fill those. Would just leave a gap on the 6 and the 8s. So either one of those, it's pretty close. Just check and see if it really matters.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really matter.
2 off
But
the
4
6.
off, and this kind of looks ugly if you look at it. Have these gaps in here, and so it's a fairly sizable error to do that. Now it's 0.03, and the bear off stage is sizable, I guess. Okay. Next one. So what do we do with this one? We can take a checker off.
That's the tricky one. 6, 2, and 4 off.
Yeah, 6. Clear the 6 and off on the 4.
6, 2, 4 off.
Yeah, and this is it's 6, 2, 4 off is a little bit better than 4 off, 6, 1. And because this is what you get with 6, 2, 4 off, we filled in all the gaps. So this is one to remember. Whereas this one, you have the gap at the 2. If you roll a 2, you're not going to get, you're going to have an extra roll. Whereas if you do this, you're going to take at least 2 off next time. And if hopefully you won't roll a 2 or a 1, but if you do, you'll still have only 2 checkers left. So this is the one to remember, because this violates the rule of always take a checker off with the die. Because here you're actually giving up a pip, because you're going 6 to 4 with the 4 and then 4 off with the 5. So you didn't get your full value for your 5, but the distribution is better, so it offsets that. All right.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, no, this is a different one.
that didn't make sense.
Anyway, let's take a look at it. What do you think? And I'll say that I didn't write that down in my summary because this position seems to be unique. And I've read Michi's explanation a number of times, and I wasn't very happy with it. I don't think his explanation is very good, but it's a fairly unique position, and I wasn't even going to bring it up, except that something similar to this happened in a match I was playing against a very fine player, and he got it wrong. So, any guess as to what's the intuitive play?
Take a two off.
Two off, yeah. What do you do with the other three
Two off
twos?
yeah, two off the 5, and
Yeah.
and then
3 to 1
off the 2, and then 3 to 1.
Yeah, that's the intuitive play, and it's wrong. In fact, well, the odd thing about this one is it's just as wrong as if you didn't take any checkers off. If you did this one, which seems really strange, but it's wrong, and but it's this one. And the idea is that if you rolled a couple twos in a row, you're going to stack the ace point even more with this play. And he gave the example: if you roll 6-2 twice, you're going to take one off and stack, and take one off and stack, and now you're left with 5 checkers on the deuce point. Where if you did this one, 6 and you're stacking off, and then 6 you're taking 2 off. In any case, I wouldn't worry about that explanation. This seems to be it seems to be a fairly unique situation, but anyway, it's in the Michi's book, and now you know about it.
Gary, would you say that this also improves your distribution by doing it this way and leaving a checker on the 5-point, or is that kind of the wrong way of thinking about it?
I'll say it again, Jim.
If you do it this way, you leave a checker on the 5-point, which improves your distribution. Is that possible?
I think he didn't say that, but that's kind of, I think that's the idea. And avoiding the big stack, where the problem you have with the twos is that if you roll a 2, you stack it, and all your checkers are on the 3, you stack the ace point.
Hey, Gary?
Yeah.
Not to go too far to the weeds, but does the Keith count make a difference between like the first and second choice?
No. For those of you who don't know, the Keith count is a way of adjusting your race. Normally, we go look at the pip count for the race. And so what the Keith count does is you calculate start with your pip count, and then you're going to adjust the pip count by penalizing stacks, basically stacks on the ace point and stacks on the deuce point. And also to a certain extent, stacks on the 3, depending on your interpretation of it. So here, let's look at the finals. Here, the Keith count adjustment would be pip count of 15, 2, here is 6, 7, and 8. So that's 23. So that's your Keith count. Your Keith count is 23 from a pip count of 15.
Gary, I think under the Analyze tab, they have the Keith count.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm not sure that. Well, I'm looking at after the roll. So
yeah.
So let's see. This one was a penalty of 6, 7, 8 checkers. So for a count of 23. This one is a count of 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 here is 8. That's also 23. So the Keith count comes out the same. So yeah, so I think it's pretty much, I've looked at this. It doesn't really work for the 4 or the 5 point. I think it's unique to the 3 point, where if you roll a couple 2s in a row, you can, stack. And so to avoid that, if you leave a checker back, it helps. Very unique situation, and I wouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about it. And in fact, I would have mentioned, but it did come up. Okay, so let's look at.
Why does it help? If you get 2 2s in a row, that's bad. Isn't it bad news either way? I don't.
Well, in this case, and Michi's example is, say you roll a 6-2. You take the 6 off and you go 3 to the ace. So you're left with. Let's go back to the beginning of this one. That's the wrong one. Here it is. Okay. So if you do this, okay, and you roll a 6-2, you're going to take this off, and this checker is going here.
Yeah.
Now, if you roll another 6-2,
you have 2 off.
You take 2 off. Now you're left with 4. Okay. So let's go back to where we were and do it the other way, where we did this.
Yeah.
Is that how that works? 6-2, you're taking 1 off. No, that's not right. Let me do it. So 1 off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So 6-2 takes 1 off here and 1 there. Another 6-2 or 5-2, 4-2 takes 1 off. Now you're left with 5 on the ace.
Oh.
You've got 3 rolls instead of 2 to come off. So that's a pretty odd situation. Okay. Let's do this one. So here's another tricky one. And to get a hint, Ray's article was primarily about if you roll an ace, and Michi says this in his book as well. So if you roll an ace and you have a checker on the ace, take that one off first, because that's always going to be right. So the hint here is that comes off with the ace. Now, how do you play the 4?
6-2, I think.
6-2, yes, it is 6-2.
Yeah, the other way you miss with the 5, don't you?
Yeah, and the answer is this gap, which is very bad to have this gap. It's better to stack the 2 than leave the gap. Which leads me into the thing, and Michi didn't really go into this, but it's an important concept which I'll introduce you. It's not in Michi's book. And I call it the rule of, I don't know why. As far as I know, it doesn't have a name, but I learned it from John O'Hagan. I'll call it the rule of 2.7. Okay, it's not. The way I'll explain it is that when you can't take a checker off with a die, and you've only got 2 left. The ideal distribution for them to be in is 2.7 pips apart. Okay, which is basically 3. 3 is, or another way of thinking is 3 is better than 2, 3 is better than 4, 4 is better than 2. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So we have a 3-1. We're going to take 1 checker off with the from the ace with a 1. Now we have a 3 to play. We can either go 5 to 2, in which case we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 pips apart, or we can go 6 to 3. Okay. So, what do you think is better?
2.7.
About 2.
Well, 6 to 3 close to 6 point. So, yeah.
Well, the rule is the 2.7 rule. So here you're at 2 pips apart.
Mm-hmm.
And here you're at 4 pips apart. So 2 pips apart is closer to 2.7 than 4 pips.
Sure.
How the heck was that rule ever developed, Gary?
I don't know. John O'Hagan might. I don't remember what he said, but it was someone did some, I don't know, someone who knows how to analyze this did some sort of computer simulation of it.
Okay.
I know where it comes from.
Oh, you do, right? What?
But you can just count how many numbers get off both ways.
It saves
Yes.
having to count, Karen. If you know the rule, you don't have to bother counting.
Yeah, so that's the point of the rule. Is because yes, Karen is right. You could go through the list of numbers and list of dice rolls and figure out how many come off, and you'll come up with the right answer because there's only 2 checkers left. So it's not that hard. But if you know the 2.7 rule, then you don't have to go through the list of numbers. And you have to do it. You have to do it twice for each situation.
Gary, what's the era difference in the 2?
It's fairly significant, 0.04. Which again, that's significant for bearing off. Usually there aren't that many errors bearing off. Okay, one more example of this, and let's see if everyone can get it. So obviously we take the 1 off with the ace. So what do we do? 2.
4-2.
Yeah. 4-2 gets us 3 pips apart. The alternative is 5-3, which gives us 1 pip apart. So according to the 2.7 rule, the 3 pips apart is better.
Gary, a nice little mnemonic rule is that if you've got 2 checkers on the 4-3, you've got about a 43% chance of getting them both off next roll. If you got them on the 5-2, you got about a 52% chance.
Wow.
Just kind of cool.
Yeah, now this one, yeah. Look at the difference in this one. This is a blunder, it's a blunder to go 5-3 rather than 4-2.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
So yeah, that's a good one, easy one to remember. And again, Karen is right. You can go through the whole list of numbers to count, but this is a really good shortcut that's efficient and will get you to the right spot. Okay, so let's look at another classification.
Gary, one question.
Yeah, sure.
Why is it called the 2.7 rule if it's 3 or 2 apart? I don't understand.
Well, because I couldn't think of another rule, another name for it. And I don't think it has a name. And I simply remember talking with John O'Hagan, who was one of my first instructors, who gave me that, who basically told me that mathematically 2.7 was the right number. It's probably easier, to remember 3 is better than 2 and 2 is better than 4, because that's pretty much, that should, I think, cover about everything.
I usually call it 2.5. It gives the same answer.
Yeah, but then you don't know, well, unless you have choice between 3 and 2, which I don't know if you can do that, but.
You won't get that choice, I don't think.
You may not.
So 3 is better than 2, and 2 is better than 4.
Yeah, maybe you call it the 3-2-4 rule or something, if that's easier. 3 is better than 2, 2 is better than 4. I don't know. I haven't seen this in the book, but and so I don't know that anyone's given it a name.
It was in Gary. It was in. I think it was in Danny Kleinman's first book. But you've got.
Okay. Did he? Did he give it a name?
I think he called it 2.7. But he had a very clever reason for saying that.
Okay. Well, if anyone wants to think of a good name, well, Michi, if Michi knew about it, he could come up with some sort of animal to name it after. But anyway, it wasn't in his book. Okay. So here's another type of situation that Ray brought to my attention, which I had forgotten about, but which comes up. And so what's the right play here in this situation? We just went over it, and this is, this is kind of normal.
Well, I think 5 off.
Yeah, 5 off.
And 3-2.
And 3-2, yeah. 5 off, and then, fill a gap. Oops, 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2.
Okay, and anything else is a blunder. Now, however, let's change it a little bit to something like this, or maybe this. Okay, so now what's different about this?
Oh, we need a double 3, so it's 5 off 4-3.
Yeah, now we don't have the luxury of time. We need to come off. First of all, we need to get lucky and have black roll an ace, and then we need to roll doubles. And so we're going to take the 5 off. Now, if we do this, oops. Okay, we got double 4s, and that's it. Or the 4s, 5s, or 6s. However, if we do, take the 5 off, now we've got 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s. So we've increased our chances by 1/36. Okay, which doesn't sound like a lot, but oops, cube in the wrong spot. But where is it? 5 off, but it's something. And it matters. Let's see, if we put these checkers back here, where black may not get off the next row. It's worth more. Bring it up here.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's look at another example of that. Here's another case. This is we're not desperate to win, but we could get the gamut. We're going to win anyway. So what's the answer here?
With the same plan, double two. To play for
Yeah, we take the 3 off, and then typically the right play would be 2 to 1, but in this case, you know, we're going to go for the gammon. We want to roll it all in the next. You know, we want to keep our chance for the next roll, so we're going to go 3 to 2. You know, not a big deal here, but you know, 0.02 is you know, it's not that hard to see these situations. Here's the same roll, but here our opponent, we've got 3 rolls. Black's got 3 rolls to get off, and so what do you think is the right play here?
So we fill the gap to make sure we don't miss with a 1.
Yeah, yeah, it's to fill the gap, and this is a huge blunder not to, because if you look, this is a 3-roll position. If we do this, we're going to be off unless we roll 2-1 twice. We're off in 2 rolls, 2 more rolls after this one, and black will need to roll doubles to win. If we do this one, if we roll an ace, we're off in 3 rolls instead of 2, and then we're likely to lose. So, big blunder not to do that. I have one more. Don't remember why this one was here.
Thought you were doing non-contact.
Yeah, this is non-contact.
Well, it is contact.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, there is contact. So this is outside the lesson, and actually I've forgotten why it's here. But anyway, can you guess? Oh, maybe. So what's the obvious play to do here?
4, 2, 3 off.
4 off, 3, 1.
No, 4, 2, 3 off.
3 off. Okay, good. Good. Now, why are you doing that, Jacob?
Because in case he dances, I won't leave another shot.
Excellent. Yes, that's why it's here.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear that.
Yeah. So the idea here is that, okay, you're forced to leave a shot. You can't avoid it. So the typical play we make is take the 4 off and then 3 to 1. Okay. Now, if black misses,
oh, I see.
You're going to, unless you roll an ace, you're going to leave another shot next time. Because either 4-5 or 3-2 or something like that, you're taking 2 off. So if we do this one, now if black dances, we're not going to leave a shot next time.
I got that wrong.
Yeah, so I mean that's a tricky one, and it's easy to forget because I just demonstrated. I forgot why I was here. And so, but it's good to know because this is, again, this is a not a big error, but it's, fairly large for bearing off. And believe me, if you get hit when you didn't have to by doing this, then you'll be annoyed because this is, 60% gammons here. And by a little bit of thinking, you can avoid it. Again, kind of, you don't need to know this. You'll probably be okay if you don't, but it's good to be aware of your situation.
This one in Michi's book?
That was not in Michi's book, no. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. Let me turn off the recording.